All right, everyone who is with us, welcome to the second episode of Sports Talk here live from Wright State University. This was originally supposed to start at 4 o'clock, but we had some technical difficulties here at Wright State with our setup, but it is all fixed now and we are ready to go here at 4:30. So, what we will cover today will be some Major League Baseball playoff news, and also I will do a topic on where I feel that the biggest offseason free agents will end up. Then we will move on to some NBA action, and we will talk about Bryce Johnson's injury, and also I'm going to introduce a new segment that's going to continue throughout the NBA season, and I hope you guys like it. That'll be a little later. We'll move on to college football, talk about the new AP polls, and then I have a couple questions for you guys about what you think when it comes to some stories in college football. After that, we'll move on to hockey, talk about big news, Connor McDavid being the new Oilers captain, and also my season predictions and the Stanley Cup champion, in my opinion. And finally, we will end the show with some NFL. I will run through some Week 5 scores. We'll talk about how the Minnesota Vikings are still the last undefeated team in the NFL. We'll talk about the top fantasy football players of the year so far, and then I will end the show by giving my Week 6 picks for NFL games this week. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show. For those of you that came back from episode 1, I appreciate your support, and I hope you enjoy this show as well. For those of you that are here for the first time, listening for the first time, I hope you enjoy the show. So without further ado, we are going to start with some baseball. The Chicago Cubs won last night over the San Francisco Giants 6-5 with a 4-run ninth inning off of Will Smith. Aroldis Chapman got the save, and the Cubs move on to the NLCS. Big contributing factors in this game: home run by David Ross in the third inning off Matt Moore. And also in the ninth inning, it was Ben Zobrist who doubled the right to score Chris Bryant, and then Wilson Contreras singled home 2 more, and then Javier Baez singled to score Hayward and give the Cubs the lead and eventually the win. So Chicago Cubs, not like it's much of a surprise to anyone, I guess, because the Cubs are one of the best teams in baseball, if not the best team in baseball, but they are 4 wins away from the World Series. This is where they fell last year to the New York Mets, though, so we'll see if they have what it takes to move on to the World Series. The other game that was played yesterday was the LA Dodgers defeating the Washington Nationals to force a Game 5. Clayton Kershaw was marvelous. 6 2/3, 7 hits, 5 earned, but most of those were given up after he was pulled. 2 walks, but 11 strikeouts from Kershaw. And they got a run in the bottom of the 8th off Blake Tryon with a single from Chase Utley after the Nationals scored 2 in the 7th to tie the game on a Daniel Murphy single, which was 3 runs in the 7th on a Murphy single and a hit-by-pitch shot by Jason Worth. And that was after Adrian Gonzalez and Jock Peterson had already scored 3 of the Dodgers' 5 runs. So the Dodgers force a Game 5, which will be played tomorrow night, Thursday night, in Washington, D.C. Again, it will be Max Scherzer versus Rich Hill. And if I had to give you guys my straight-up prediction right now, I'd say the Dodgers fall to the Nationals in Game 5 by a score of 5-2. So we will finish up MLB by previewing this segment of MLB by previewing the ALCS, which will feature Toronto and Cleveland. From Game 1 will be from Cleveland. It will be Marco Estrada versus Corey Kluber. Corey Kluber coming off of a very, very impressive performance against the Boston Red Sox, in which they won 6-0. While Marco Estrada coming off a game where, he was okay, but, they won, obviously. They won 10-1. But I didn't think he had the kind of stuff to
What'd you think of that performance by the Jays? Whoa.
make it very convincing for Estrada. He did, however, finish the game with a very impressive only 4 hits allowed and 8 in the third. So that will be a very good pitching matchup. I like the Indians in game 1 at home, and I like the Indians in the series as well in about 6 or 7 games. I'm sticking with 7 right now, but by the time next week's show comes around and it'll be about game 3, game 4, I'll let you know if I change my mind and bump it down to 6. But that is for the playoffs right now. We are going to talk a little bit now about the Cubs. And what I think if they can break the curse this year. They did just beat the Giants, who are considered unbeatable on even years, and they look pretty good. So I don't know. I think the Cubs, honestly, are better than the Blue Jays. They're better than the Indians. They're better than the Nationals and the Dodgers. I think they're the best team right now in baseball. And if they keep playing like they have been, I think there's no one that's good enough to beat them. And I think the Cubs will break the 108-year drought of winning the World Series. I recently went to Chicago for Game 2 of the NLDS, in which the Cubs won 5-2. And I was surrounded by about 40,000 drunk Chicago fans, but they need a World Series. I learned that this past week. They need a World Series bad. You can tell that team is desperate for a World Series. So we're going to move on to a new topic I thought would be interesting for this week. We are going to talk about some of the big free agents, projected free agents in the MLB this year and where I think they will go. So one of the big ones is Yoenis Cespedes. And I believe he will stay with the New York Mets. He has a opt-out option at the end of this year, which he is projected to take, and hopefully he takes it. I think he will take it. Obviously, he wants more money, but I think he likes New York enough that he will stay with the Mets. Another big free agent this year, Steven Strasburg. Strasburg dominant, but hurt. Dominant until about mid-May, but then he got hurt. And it appears he could be looking for a 7-year deal worth about $240 million, which he doesn't turn 28 until July. So he's still a very young pitcher, and he's in the prime of his career, so he'll be wanting quite a bit of money. Other big free agents, I'm only going to do the top 10 here. You will have here, I'll just name them off. Jose Bautista, Josh Reddick, Carlos Gomez, Kenley Jansen, Edwin Encarnacion, Aroldis Chapman, Francisco Cervelli, and Dexter Fowler. I don't see Fowler leaving the Cubs. I think Fowler likes it as the Cubs center fielder. The Cubs have a lot of talent coming up these next couple of years. And I think Soler, Fowler, and Schwarber is the future outfield of the Cubs. Jason Hayward, he hasn't been that great with the Cubs. I think if you want to give Hayward another shot next year, you bench Soler a little longer, or maybe Schwarber at the start of the year just so he can finish up his recovery from his torn ACL. But Schwarber, obviously, once he's fully healthy, you got to insert him in that starting lineup. Fowler needs to stay in that starting lineup. Soler's more of a boomer bust option, with Hayward being a very solid hitter usually, but this year he has been kind of lacking. So working our way up the list to Francisco Cervelli. Pirates need a catcher. Cervelli wants money. Pirates are going to pay him. Simple as that. He's going to stay in Pittsburgh. Aroldis Chapman, he wants a big contract. I've heard rumors that he wants to go back to the New York Yankees, the team he was traded to originally by the Cincinnati Reds, and I would not be surprised at all. New York's going to probably give him the most money out of any team that'll be interested, and it's also one of the best environments to play baseball in. As much as I hate the Yankees, they got a pretty good organization. So Edwin Encarnacion and Jose Bautista on this list as well. I don't see them leaving the Blue Jays. They're too old in their careers to get too much money from another team, and I think they like it in Toronto, especially with Toronto still rolling in the playoffs. Josh Reddick, he is turns 30 in February, and he is now playing for the Dodgers, who are heading into Game 5 of the series. And Josh Reddick, I mean, I could see Josh Reddick going to a number of teams. I could see Josh Reddick going back to the A's because they're going to pay him a lot, and he's really going to. I think he misses Oakland. I could see him returning to the Dodgers to try and play for a winner. I could see him going to a team like Arizona or San Francisco, who needs a bat. I could see him going to a team like the Yankees or even the Red Sox, trying to replace. Well, they got Mookie out there. Maybe try and pair him up with Mookie Betts. I could see him going to a team like Detroit. So, yeah, there's a couple places I could see Josh Reddick going. And then last but not least, Carlos Gomez. Kenley Jansen's going to stay with the Dodgers. I guarantee it. Carlos Gomez, I don't know who's going to pay him. He hasn't been that good this year. He is playing currently for he just ended up playing for the Texas Rangers. Texas liked him, I think. I think they want to try and build around Nomar Mazara. And Josh Hamilton, obviously not returning to Texas. But I don't know who's going to offer Carlos Gomez a contract. I'm just going to say right now, probably just a team that's middle of the pack and needs an extra bat. So that'll do it for MLB this week. We talked about some of the biggest offseason free agents and where they will end up, in my opinion. We also brought up the fact of the Cubs. I believe they will break the curse this year. And we previewed the ALCS between the Indians and Blue Jays. And we talked about how the Cubs are awaiting the Dodgers or Nationals in the NLCS. We're going to take a 1-minute break for station identification. You're listening to Sports Talk on Wright State Radio Network. All right, we are back to Sports Talk. Moving on to the NBA, I'm going to go over some preseason scores really quick. From last night, we had the Miami Heat over the Brooklyn Nets, 121-100. The Memphis Grizzlies over the Philadelphia 76ers, 121-91. The Dallas Mavericks over the Oklahoma City Thunder, 114-109. And in overtime, the Portland Trailblazers defeat the LA Lakers 109-106. So we're going to talk. I thought when I first heard this, I knew this was going to be a topic on the show this week. A very, very important piece to the North Carolina National Championship runner-up team last year. And there's probably their senior leader, other than Marcus Page, Bryce Johnson, the rookie forward for the Clippers, is out 4 to 6 weeks with a herniated disc in his back. And that is very poor news for the LA Clippers, as they took a big chance on drafting this kid. And they were very impressed with him so far. Likely out 4 to 6 weeks, according to the report. But Coach Doc Rivers said, quote, "That's tough for a rookie. He's not going to miss the year or anything, but, missing 2, 3, 4 weeks for a guy who's that young, that's just a tough break. But it happens." He suffered the injury Thursday in the fourth quarter of the Clippers' preseason victory over the Raptors. He is a 6'10" forward listed at 230 pounds, and he was the 25th overall pick by the Clippers. Other news today for big news. Anthony Davis, the superstar Pelicans forward.
What more can you tell us about the injury to Davis?
Is injured. He's a grade 2 right ankle sprain in the preseason game today against the Houston Rockets in Beijing, and he's expected to be out 10 to 15 days. He stepped on the foot of Nene while making a move to the basket with 6:37 left to play in the first quarter of the Rockets' victory. Davis stayed in the game, but he checked out for good about a minute later. He went back to the locker room and did not return. He wore a boot as he walked out of the arena, and his injury could jeopardize his availability for the Pelicans season opener October 26th. He finished the game with 2 points in 7 minutes, but a lot of Pelicans fans know that with Anthony Davis's previous knee and ankle injuries, this is not good to start the season with. We're going to take a 1-minute break again for station identification. I will be right back to Sports Talk.
Call from Ryan SU.
I'll try and find you. Promises. Well, they said they're shooting for the other. All right, we are back. Sorry for that interruption, guys. I had a little bit of family issues there, but we are back. We are moving on to my new segment here on Sports Talk. I'm calling it Team of the Week, where I will ask the viewers, you guys, for one team every week in the NBA, and we're going to discuss their upcoming season and their chances at an NBA title. Last week, we did the New York Knicks, talked about some of their offseason signings, such as Derrick Rose and Joakim Noah, as well as Carmelo Anthony and Kristaps Porzingis returning. This week's Team of the Week is the Los Angeles Clippers. The starting five for the Clippers this year is very solid. They're one of the top teams in the West other than the Warriors and Thunder. The starting five for the Clippers consists of Chris Paul at the point guard spot, 31-year-old out of Wake Forest. He is the veteran leader. At shooting guard, they have J.J. Redick, the 32-year-old from Duke. At small forward, small forward is Paul Pierce, the 38-year-old from Kansas. Power forward, you have Blake Griffin, the 27-year-old out of Oklahoma. And at center, DeAndre Jordan, the 28-year-old from Texas A&M. Very solid starting five for the Clippers. And Paul, Jordan, and Griffin are a very nice big three. And then Redick and Pierce, very good supporting pieces. This team is going to be a top five team in the West this year. I just don't see them getting over the hump of the Thunder and the Warriors. It's just too much talent to overcome. But they also have some very solid bench pieces. They have Brandon Bass, Jamal Crawford, three-time sixth man of the year, Raymond Felton, Bryce Johnson, and Diamond Stone, two very nice rookies, Maurice Spates, Austin Rivers, Luke Mbamute, Wesley Johnson, and Durrell Wright. So a lot of very solid pieces to that Clippers team. And I think they will have a very solid year. I give their chances of an NBA title about a 6%. I'd say that's fourth in the West, behind the Warriors, the Thunder, and the Spurs. So a very solid team. Just I don't think they have the talent and the veteran leadership to keep up with teams like Golden State and San Antonio and Oklahoma City. So we will move on to college football now. And I will start off the college football segment by going through the new AP Top 25. The top five stayed the same this week. It is Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, Michigan, Washington. Moving up to 6, you got Texas A&M, Louisville, 7. Wisconsin moves up 3 spots to number 8. Tennessee, number 9. And Nebraska wraps up the top 10. Moving into the 11 through 20, you got Baylor, Ole Miss, Houston, Florida State, Boise State, Miami, Virginia Tech, Florida, Oklahoma, and West Virginia. And then the last 5 in the top 5, Utah, Arkansas, Auburn. For the first time in school history at number 24, Western Michigan is ranked. Congratulations to them. And then at 25, the team that just knocked off Houston, Navy. And also receiving some votes in the coaches poll, teams that aren't ranked but are just outside the rankings, Georgia, Arizona State, North Carolina, LSU, Oklahoma State, North Dakota State, Stanford, and Colorado. So we will move on to the next segment, which is for it's our debate of the week. And it's a two-part question this week, with the first part coming out of the Big Ten. And after watching Michigan beat Rutgers 78-0 this week, I was curious of your guys' opinion. Is Michigan the best football team in the country? They are very solid, one of the best defenses in the country, and also has a very capable offense. They have Wilton Spade at quarterback. At running back, they have a lot of running backs that are they have 3 or 4 running backs that play. They have Chris Evans, the freshman, very fast. They have Higdon. Jabril Peppers even runs it a couple times. The junior linebacker from East Orange, New Jersey. That kid's up for the Heisman, by the way. He's amazing. On the season, just to give you an idea of how good this player is, he has 35 tackles total with 25 solo tackles and 10 assisted tackles, 2.5 sacks, a forced fumble, and an interception. We're going to take another minute break, guys.
There. Helen.
That's fine. Okay. And I got mom on the other line right now. Okay. So I'll talk to you later. Bye. Hello? Yeah. It's not on there. I hope so too. Okay. Bye. All right, welcome back to Sports Talk. Hopefully no more interruptions on our part for the show. But yeah, that's the first part of the question. Is Michigan the best team in the country? They've looked better, in my opinion, than Ohio State or Alabama. And I am very curious to hear what you guys think, if they are the best team in the country or not. The second part of this week's question is, can Texas A&M dethrone Alabama in the SEC this year? Texas A&M has been very, very solid to start the year. They have beaten a couple top 10 teams, including Tennessee last week. Very solid quarterback in Taylor Knight. And I believe that they are on track to represent in the SEC championship game. They beat UCLA to start the year. They've beaten Auburn, Arkansas, South Carolina, and Tennessee. And they take on Alabama this weekend in Tuscaloosa. And it should be a very interesting matchup between the Tide and the Aggies. Winner of that game, I could totally see winning the SEC this year. Very similar teams. Texas A&M averaging about 40 points a game, with Alabama averaging about 45. And Texas A&M giving up about 19, with Alabama giving up about 16. So a very even matchup. Very, very even matchup. And I am very curious to see what happens this weekend. So those were the two questions this week. Leave your comments down below in the podcast on YouTube, in your opinion, between who is Michigan the best team in the country, and can Texas A&M dethrone Alabama in the SEC? Another topic I brought up that on down in a poll on my podcast on YouTube is, who will win Game 5 of the NLDS? It is between Rich Hill and Max Scherzer, as I mentioned earlier. And I am very curious to hear what you guys think. Will it be the Dodgers completing the comeback after being down 2-1, or will the Nationals defend their home field and win to move on to face the Chicago Cubs? So I'd love to hear your guys' feedback, because what fun are we having if I don't get to hear from you guys? I mean, that's the point of this show. So we are going to move on to the NHL now. And coming out some big news for the NHL today is Sidney Crosby is going to miss the Penguins opener with a concussion. And also, Sabres center Jack Eichel is out indefinitely after having a left high ankle sprain during practice on Wednesday. So he is definitely out. It occurred with less than 10 minutes remaining in practice and a day before the season opener against the Montreal Canadiens. So very unfortunate news. Casey Price is also going to miss the opener with the flu. So some big injuries and illnesses to major players in the NHL. So we are going to move on now to Connor McDavid being chosen as the Edmonton Oilers captain at just 19 years old. He is the fourth youngest captain in the history of the NHL. That's very impressive. I don't know much about hockey. I don't watch it as much as I watch baseball or football or even basketball. But I know talent when I see it, and Connor McDavid has talent. This kid is the future of the NHL, and I don't think any hockey fan would argue with me there. So Connor McDavid, congratulations on being the captain of the Edmonton Oilers. Yeah, very solid news. The NHL season kicks off tonight. 4 games that are gonna be on. You've got at 7:00 Toronto Maple Leafs heading to face the Ottawa Senators. At 8, you got the St. Louis Blues heading to Chicago to take on the Blackhawks. 10:00 Calgary taking on Edmonton, and then at 10:30 the Kings visit the Sharks in probably the best game of the night. Sharks versus Kings, very interesting game. Sharks weren't very good at home last year, but in the playoffs, they were almost unbeatable. So, new Sharks players making their debuts tonight is Mikhail Bodker and David Schlemko, who each signed 4-year contracts on the first day of free agency. Bodker joins Logan Couture and Jonas Donskoy on the team's second line, while Schlemko will partner with Brendan Dillon to give the Sharks a mobile defense. So very exciting year for the San Jose Sharks. Hopefully, I believe that the Sharks will make a deep run in the playoffs once again, and I think they will be a very formidable team this year in the NHL. So I am going to now, I promised earlier in the show that I will do my predictions for the NHL season for this year, and I am a man of my word. Here we go. I am predicting to win the Atlantic, the Tampa Bay Lightning. With coming in second will be the Montreal Canadiens, and coming in third will be the Florida Panthers. Winning the Metropolitan will be the Capitals, second place being the Penguins, third place being the Rangers. In the Central, you will have first place being the Blackhawks, second place being the Stars, and third place being the Blues, fourth place being the Wild. In the Pacific, first place will be the Ducks, second place the Kings, third place the Flames. And then in the playoffs, I've got in the Eastern Conference Finals the Capitals beating the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then in the West, I have the Chicago Blackhawks over the Anaheim Ducks. And then in the Stanley Cup Final, I have the Washington Capitals over the Chicago Blackhawks and winning the Stanley Cup. Alex Ovechkin needs a Stanley Cup. I think he's going to put up MVP numbers this year. Now, my picks for some of the big awards in NHL this year. I'm just going to do the Hart Trophy for now. I believe it will be Alex Ovechkin. It could also be, I could see Steven Stamkos, Sidney Crosby, even maybe Carey Price, although he'd probably be up more for with Henrik Lundqvist and Pekka Rinne for the Vezina Award. But yes, so I believe the Washington Capitals finally get their championship this year and win the Stanley Cup Final. So we are going to end the show with some NFL action. I will run through the Week 5 scores really quick. If you missed them, the Arizona Cardinals over the San Francisco 49ers, 33-21. New England Patriots over the Cleveland Browns, 33-13. Philadelphia Eagles fall to the Detroit Lions, 24-23. Colts over the Bears, 29-23. Titans over the Dolphins, 30-17. Redskins beat the Ravens, 16-10. Vikings over the Texans, 31-13. Pittsburgh Steelers over the New York Jets, 31-13. Falcons defeat the Broncos, 23-16. Dallas over the Bengals, 28-14. Buffalo over the Rams, 30-19. Raiders over the Chargers, 34-31. Packers beat the Giants 23-16, and the Buccaneers defeat the Panthers 17-14. So we are going to talk about the Minnesota Vikings next, the last undefeated team in football at 5-0. And I think somebody better quickly call Denver police, because it seems like there's been a robbery because the Minnesota defense has stolen the Denver Bronco defense. What is going on? They just signed Jake Long yesterday, and Jake Long is now going to probably play left tackle with Andre Smith out for the year, or not out for the year maybe, but just on IR. And, Vikings can do no wrong. Adrian Peterson out for the year, Teddy Bridgewater out for the year, and they are still finding ways to win. And Stephon Diggs, also one of the best up-and-coming receivers in the NFL. So we are going to move on to some of the top fantasy players in the league. Through weeks 5 so far, your scoring leaders, we're going to run by each of the offensive positions. Starting at quarterback, your top quarterback so far on the year is Matt Ryan. Second coming is Ben Roethlisberger. Third, Derek Carr. Fourth, Andrew Luck. And fifth, Phillip Rivers. Some big names up there that no one really expected. Dak Prescott, 7. Cam Newton down in 12th. You've got Carson Wentz in 17th. Those are some of the big names. Running backs. Top running backs so far in fantasy is David Johnson. Second being DeMarco Murray. Third being Ezekiel Elliott. Carlos Hyde, 4. Melvin Gordon, 5. C.J. Anderson, D'Angelo Williams up there as well. Jeremy Hill, a little more down. Le'Veon Bell in 2 games has put up 31 points. Very, very good start for Le'Veon Bell. And then we will move on to wide receivers. Top wide receiver, obviously, Antonio Brown. Second, Julio Jones. Third, T.Y. Hilton. Fourth, Marvin Jones. Fifth, Mike Evans. A.J. Green, Larry Fitzgerald, Demaryius Thomas, Jordy Nelson also near the top. Top tight ends in fantasy football so far. Top tight end is Greg Olsen. Second, Martellus Bennett. Third, Jordan Reed. Fifth, Kyle Rudolph. Sixth, Zach Miller. Moving on to top defenses. Vikings defense number 1. Cardinals defense number 2. Bills defense number 3. Broncos defense number 4. And the Eagles defense number 5. Then top 5 kickers this year are Adam Vinatieri, 1, Matt Bryant, 2, Justin Tucker, 3, Dustin Hopkins, 4, and Mike Nugent, 5. Caleb Sturgis, 6. Then you've got Dan Bailey down in 9th. Very surprising this year. Your top flex options so far this year, if you're looking for a sleeper player, Theo Riddick, Frank Gore, Sammy Coates, Will Fuller, Mike Wallace, Terrell Pryor, and Doug Baldwin, just to name a couple. So we are going to end the show with some Week 6 picks. I will provide you guys with my picks for Week 6, and we will end the show there. So on Thursday Night Football, you've got the Denver Broncos traveling to San Diego to take on the Chargers. I like the Broncos in that game. Too good for the Chargers. I like the Broncos 31-17. Bengals travel to New England to take on the Patriots on Sunday. I like the Patriots as much as I love the Bengals. The Patriots are going to win this game 34-21. Bills hosting the 49ers. Bills have been on a roll lately, winning 3 in a row, and I like the Bills in this game 28-17. Eagles travel to Washington in a division rivalry. Very tough game to pick here since the Redskins were at home, but I am picking the Eagles in a close one, 28-24. Browns, 0-5 Browns head to Tennessee to take on the Titans. I think the Browns get a good shot at winning a game this week, but I like the Titans. Marcus Mariota and that big play threat. I like the Titans in a very close game, 21-20. Baltimore travels to the Giants. I like the Giants at home, 28-17. Carolina heads to New Orleans to take on the Saints. Cam Newton should be back for that game. And I like Carolina to get another win, their second win of the season, 34-31. Jacksonville heads to Chicago to take on the Bears. I like the Jaguars in this one, 28-20. 20. Rams head to Detroit, take on the Lions. I like the Rams in this one, 24-21. Pittsburgh heads to Miami to take on the Dolphins. I got to go Steelers, man, 41-17. Steelers offense just too good. Chiefs heading to Oakland to take on the Raiders. I like the Raiders a lot this year, and I think they're going to defend their home turf against the Chiefs, 31-28. Atlanta heads to Seattle, and I like the Seahawks defending their home turf against the Falcons, 34-28. Dallas heads to Green Bay. Dak Prescott's been amazing this year, but Green Bay is too good at home. I like the Packers, 28-21. Houston hosting Indianapolis on Sunday Night Football, and I like the Texans in this one, 21-17. Very defensive game. And then on Monday Night Football, the Jets head to the Arizona to take on the Cardinals. I like the Cardinals getting Carson Palmer back to start going in the right direction with their wins. I like the Cardinals 34-21. That will do it for this week on Sports Talk. Join us next Wednesday at 4:30 when we do another show live here from Wright State University. I hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you guys next week. Thanks for watching, or thanks for listening, I should say. And I hope you guys learned something. I hope you guys comment on the questions I had for you guys on my podcast on YouTube. Either search Sports Talk with Shea or search my channel name, S. Jacob Neal. It will say on the feed Sports Talk with Shea for October 12th. And I appreciate you guys listening. I will see you guys next week. Peace out.